I'm okay. Hang on. Sorry, the kittens are being
Kittens.
rambunctious today, but it's their birthday, so they're allowed to be.
Oh, happy birthday, kitties.
Happy birthday, kitties! They say thank you.
Okay.
How's life treating you? You doing good?
Oh, yeah, dude, I've been working so much this week that I'm just like, oh, what? Yeah. No, we're breaking down my theater, and so I spent all day like moving out pieces of my stage, and
Oh, so you're probably pretty exhausted.
I'm so exhausted. Yeah, and Darnell's been getting up at like 3 a.m. for army stuff, which means I don't sleep very well after the shuffling and the leaving and the
Oh, of
yeah.
course.
So we're both
All
pretty
that fun
tired.
stuff that comes with being a couple.
Yeah, we were in bed at like 9 on the dot last night.
So German 9, what is that for me?
2. We're 7 hours ahead of you.
2 p.m.?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So
Yeah.
not too far from now. Well, welcome to Supposedly.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us today for our deep dive on past life regression.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're doing something new for us, which is kind of dual tackling the same concept.
Right. So this will be a fun one because Rue's going to tell us all about the history of past lives, and I'm going to tell you some fun stories of people who have experienced it, and maybe how you could possibly experience one yourself.
Perfect. All right, well, I guess we'll dive in. So, reincarnation is a huge part of a lot of Eastern religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, as well as a lot of like pre-Columbian indigenous religions. So, with those religions, my understanding, and I'll admit my ignorance here, I've studied Buddhism and Hindu a little bit, but I'm totally not an expert. So if anyone here would like to gently and lovingly correct any of our fuck-ups, we would
We are open to
happily
it.
receive that. Okay, so my understanding is that with those religions, the idea of reincarnation or having past lives is pretty common. I think that us Westerners are so taken by the idea of past lives because of the kind of sensationalist stories that we do hear of it, that it doesn't feel as commonplace or as natural as just being like a tenet of our religion, because I mean Christianity is pretty prevalent in the United States. So reincarnate is a Latin word which literally means to enter the flesh again. The Greek counterpart for this word is metempsychosis, from the words to change as well as to put a soul into. And this term was attributed to Pythagoras, who I
Ah, the
still have beef
Pythagorean
with.
theorem.
Yeah, screw that guy.
That guy.
A squared plus B squared equals C
Did you
squared.
see the kitten just
saw.
came in through a... Oh! Are you still there? He jumped on my laptop.
I'm still here.
It's their birthday. I have to forgive him. He clearly wants me to play with him with this bracelet. Well, it's actually my other cat's collar that he found that he just threw on my lap and totally disrupted that. My apologies.
You're all good.
Birthday!
Happy birthday. All right, so a third term is transmigration, which is the concept that someone can migrate from one body to another. So, kind of go into some definitions. Reincarnation refers to the belief that an aspect of every human being, or all living beings in some cultures, continue to exist after death. The aspect may be the soul or the mind or the consciousness or something transcendent, which is reborn into an interconnected cycle of existence. Transmigration beliefs vary by culture and is envisioned in the form of like a newly born human being, animal, plant, spirit, or other being in some non-human realm of existence. Many Eastern religions believe that reincarnation is cyclic and endless until spiritual insights are gained, which ends the cycle and begins the liberation process. The reincarnation concept is considered in Indian religions as a step that starts each cycle of aimless drifting, wandering, or mundane existence, but one that is an opportunity to seek spiritual liberation through ethical living and a variety of spiritual practices. They consider the release from the cycle of reincarnations as the ultimate spiritual goal, and that the term for that liberation is either moksha or nirvana, or there's some other terms for that in other cultures. So, some histories, and I'll try and go by this kind of quickly because I know some people really dig the history stuff and some people are like, yeah, I just want to hear creepy little kids saying weird stuff. But it's interesting to me, and it's our show, so I get to talk about it. So, reincarnation appears in, like I said, the philosophical traditions of India. the pre-Socratic Greeks discussed reincarnation, as well as the Celtic Druids, who are reported to have taught a doctrine of reincarnation as well. The Eastern history of cyclical reincarnation traces back to the Upanishads of the Vedic age during the latter Bronze Age of 1100 through 500 BCE.
Interesting.
Right, yeah, it's cool that we can kind of identify when
that began.
Yeah.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah, so it's believed that the tribes of the Ganges Valley or of Dravidian traditions of South India may have been another early source of reincarnation beliefs. These earliest records do not mention karma, but they do describe an afterlife. So I thought that was kind of interesting because in my understanding, karma is such a huge part of reincarnation.
Well, in Buddhism in general.
Yeah.
I think karma, while yes, it's a huge, I would say it is a huge part of reincarnation, even in non-Buddhist religions.
Yeah, because I mean, even as we go on in my notes, like it comes up a lot. So it's interesting to me that
it
an
does
afterlife
seem to be a reoccurring pattern, while I would say Buddhism definitely puts an emphasis on it.
Yeah. So ancient texts of Jainism from the last few centuries of the first millennium BCE extensively make reference to rebirth and karma. So it sounds like maybe it started with that philosophy and then migrated towards some of the other religions. In these early texts, reincarnation is said to occur instantaneously at the point of death. What type of bodily form the spirit would take on, whether lower or higher, either in heaven or hell or the earthly realm, was dependent on the karmic balance. So that's kind of like what we were talking about. These beliefs assert that no bodily form is permanent and that everyone dies and reincarnates further. Liberation from reincarnation is possible through removing and ending karmic accumulations to one's soul. So like atoning for the not so great stuff you've done in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
By that measure, it kind of saying that you just keep on reincarnating again and again and again and again and again until you've atoned for everything. Do you want to reincarnate again and again and again and again and again?
Oh, I don't know.
That's fair.
It seems like a lot. 2020's really done a number on me. I think I'm kind of done in this plane.
Yeah, I think we've lived 40 different lives in 2020, just alone.
Yep. All of them. Okay, so the earliest Buddhist mentions of reincarnation assert that the nature of existence is, quote, a suffering-laden cycle of life, death, and rebirth without beginning or end. Something just slammed. Hope you guys couldn't hear that.
We could.
Okay, well, it's spooky. Something knocked on my door the other day.
Really?
On my office door, which is in the hall compared to the rest of my apartment.
I hope nobody dies. You've heard my theory with my family when someone knocks on the door, what that means.
It was either the wind or the thing in the basement, because technically, hi cat, because technically my office is like in the hall. What is happening over there? I can't hear you now.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me again?
I can.
The cat jumped on the keyboard, ran across the bed, and projectiled himself into the closet doors while carrying that collar, so.
Oh my. They're having a very happy birthday.
They are. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Anyways, so like I said, that's known as the Wheel of Existence. Liberation from the cycle of existence, nirvana, is the foundation and the most important purpose of Buddhism. Buddhist texts also claim that an enlightened person knows his previous births. And I'd also like to say, I got that directly. We're going to say knows their previous births. We're not going to gender things.
Yeah.
A knowledge achieved through high levels of meditative concentration. So Tibetan Buddhism discusses death and rebirth in texts such as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which I just mentioned in case anyone wants to look further into it, because books of the dead are awesome.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead is particularly interesting, in my opinion. Though it's been a while since I've looked at it, but I highly encourage you to seek that out and just do a little flip through it and see if anything catches your attention. They've got some really cool ideas and concepts in there.
For sure. So different branches of Buddhism value either reaching nirvana or the accumulation of good karma for better future reincarnation. So it kind of splits into, do you want to be done or do you want to keep going but do it better next time?
And you're at the just be done right now.
Right now I am. I don't know if I get a say in it, but if I get to pick, I think I'm good, guys. So the earliest Buddhist reincarnation traditions had 5 realms in the wheel of existence. Hells, hungry ghosts, which sounds awesome.
Like we need an episode on that.
Yeah. Animals, humans, and gods. Eventually a 6th realm of demigods was introduced. So that's kind of a taster on the Indian traditions.
So do you think it's like one of those things where maybe you start out as an animal, and after you've evolved, spiritually you're a human, and after you've evolved spiritually in that realm, you are then a demigod, and then you become a god yourself type thing? Or?
That's kind of been my understanding. I also believe that I've heard yes, it moves us all. And I also think you can get like demoted too.
That's interesting. So you can go backwards on the circle as well.
That's been my understanding. Maybe someone can correct us if we're wrong, but that like if you really jack it up, that they're like, okay, you clearly don't deserve personhood yet.
You get to go be a hunted and eaten rabbit.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so we're going to move a little bit west towards the Greek and Romans. So the earliest known Greek discussions of reincarnation were around the 6th century BCE. And it's pretty much accepted that most of this philosophy was brought over from India. So there was some cultural exchange that they were like, hey, these Buddhist ideas, they're pretty cool. Let's let Plato and Socrates think it over for a little bit and see what they come up with.
Yeah, Greeks and Romans both had a very integral trade route, and there were people of all cultures coming in and out constantly with trade and immigration. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense.
Absolutely. So the Greek religion of Orphism focused on Orpheus, who was the person who is able to go into the underworld and return. And apparently that religion referenced rebirth very frequently due to like Orpheus's return cyclically.
Now, remind me, I could be wrong about this, but Orpheus goes to hell or to Hades, and he does he retrieve his lover? Yes, and there's a couple other stories where that's kind of influenced. Like Tale of Hercules has some influence from that time period, and therefore they integrated that into the myth as well.
Yep. And this is the part where I drop a Hades Town reference for all my other musical theater people out there.
Drop it like it's hot.
So Plato argued that the number of souls must be finite because souls are indestructible. So he was like, there's only room for so many, and if they must keep recycling because you can only have so many.
Okay, interesting theory.
Ben Franklin would later agree with him.
Okay.
So take that for what you will. So these beliefs kind of fell away from the Greek and Roman people with the rise of Christianity, because Christianity teaches that the faithful ascend directly to heaven.
That is true.
And so there wasn't quite this, be good so you can do better next time. It was like, be good and you win.
Forget about the other eras of the circle.
Yeah. No, you're good. Just gone. So Celtic paganism. Julius Caesar, I guess we're not quite done with the Romans yet. Julius Caesar recounted of the Druids of Gaul, Britain, and Ireland, quote, the principal point of their doctrine is that the soul does not die, and that after death it passes from one body into another. The main object of all education is, in their opinion, to imbue their scholars with a firm belief in the indestructibility of the human soul, which, according to their belief, merely passes at death from one tenement to another. For by such doctrine alone, they say, which robs death of all its terrors, can the highest form of human courage be developed. Which is pretty interesting considering, Julius Caesar's history and his life, that he was always very focused on how to lead the strongest army. And it's like, okay, let's examine this. If you get recycled and the good things you do in life mean that you get to do more cool stuff in the future. It's like, hey, fight really hard for me, kill a bunch of dudes for the empire. It's okay if you die, because
you'll come back stronger. Right.
Exactly. Which I thought is kind of a clever, if you look at it through his lens.
Definitely.
So I want to talk a little bit about Judaism. Ancient Jewish mystics were given different explanations of the afterlife, with the universal belief in an immortal soul. Today, reincarnation is a belief in many streams of Judaism. Kabbalah teaches a belief in the transmigration of souls. Reincarnation is universal in Hasidic Judaism, which regards the Kabbalah as sacred. It also held an esoteric belief within modern Orthodox Judaism. So the most comprehensive Kabbalistic work on reincarnation, and I'm going to mess this up, I believe it's Shar HaGilgulim, was written by Chaim Vital, based on the teachings of his mentor, the 16th century Kabbalist Isaac Luria, who was said to have known the past lives of each person through his semi-prophetic abilities.
Oh, that's interesting. So he could just look at you and be like, yeah, you were this, 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 and this.
Apparently, yeah.
Okay.
So take that for what you will, but that'd be a cool power.
That'd be a super cool power if you had it.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. I'm always weary of people who can do that sort of thing, because it also just looks like maybe they're great at improv.
Yeah, a little
like
bit.
Rue, you were a witch in a past life. You were also a fisherman out at sea in the 16th century.
Yeah,
and then you were a toad.
it's like those psychics that you go to that's like, do you have a dad? And it's like a 50-50, like, oh, most people have a dad. I mean, we'd both be fucked, but like, you know, it's like,
True.
Did you have a grandmother?
We'd be the exception to that.
Oh my god, yeah, I had a grandmother. The psychic knows everything. And it's like, whoa.
I had 4!
Whoa! Yeah. All right, so the practice of conversion to Judaism is sometimes understood within the Orthodox faith in terms of reincarnation. So according to that school of thought in Judaism, when non-Jews are drawn to Judaism later in life, it's because they had been Jews in former lives. Such souls may wander among nations through multiple lives until they find their way back to Judaism, including through finding themselves born in a non-Jewish family with a lost Jewish ancestor.
Okay. So once you're a Jew, you're always a Jew, and you'll come back to Judaism.
Theoretically, yeah.
Theoretically.
Yeah, so that was an interesting idea.
That's an interesting way to talk about souls always having been existing. Like there's a finite number, right? And I just forgot what I was going to say because there's more chaos happening in front of me.
Do you mean like that they exist in the same capacity?
Well, that, and it's a great way to explain, oh man, help me out here. What's it called when you go from you convert?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like converting to a different religion is, oh, they've always been Jewish.
Right.
So they're not really converting, they're just coming back to their, yes.
Yeah. I saw some things, and I do want to address this just because that idea is out there. It feels problematic to me, but I'm not sure. I've also, in my research, saw some people who claimed past lives or soul grouping or whatever for why people, especially when they're young children, realize that they're trans.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, which I'm not sure, like and again, this comes from like a cis straight white woman's perspective. It feels kind of cringy to me because it almost feels like a way of passing off the validity of trans people. But
yeah,
I can also see how it could be validating, is that, you know, this soul is male or this soul is female. Like, I don't know. I would be really interested to have that dialogue with someone who's actually trans.
And I feel like it probably varies within the trans community too. I think that's anything having to do with religion and reincarnation are ideas that's going to vary from human to human,
of course,
regardless of gender identification, any of that. So
yeah, but like
that would be really interesting.
I think it was in the same journal though, and I think this is part of probably why it sits so weirdly with me, was like the idea of reincarnation and being good for your next life was also why you shouldn't be gay. And I was like, oh, don't love that.
Yeah, not liking that.
And so that's kind of what made me be like, okay, is that a way of like not validating those people? Because like you can't in one paragraph be like, maybe all souls are male or female and they accidentally get born into a body that does not match their authenticity, but also don't be gay. I was like, you can't have it both ways, guys.
Yeah. Pick one or the other there, and pick the right one, please.
Yeah. So, all right. So moving forward, I wanted to talk about African beliefs as well, because these were so much harder to find. Like the Wikipedia page on reincarnation is so long. I got so stuck on it, but there was literally nothing about what. Oh, your cat is. Hi.
It's not my cat, it's my roommate's cat, but
the cat.
He really likes to bring stuff to me while I'm in the middle of a podcast. Now it's a catnip pickle.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
That he brought out of the living room, by the way. I knew
Oh.
exactly where that one was.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, these were a little bit harder to find, and especially since, like, I was just talking with one of my really good friends the other day about how Eurocentric and how whitewashed history is, that I was like, okay, I feel like it's really important that I had to dig these up to then talk about it and make it easier to disseminate that information.
Absolutely.
So
what'd you find out?
So that said, I also struggled to find specific regions or religions being referenced. And this is your friendly reminder that Africa is a continent, which is bigger than North America and not a country. Because I saw a lot of just like African beliefs. And I'm like, no, no, that's not what we do here. Like, it's a continent. Like, there's so many regions, there's so many countries. And a lot of them are very small communities with very unique beliefs. So that said, I'm going to do the best I can with what I've got.
All right.
So in some African religions, there are varying beliefs on where the soul is located in the body, as well as how it gets put there. There are differing schools of thought on whether the spirit is attached to the blood, body, or the breath of a person, all of which impact how reincarnation occurs. And so what's interesting about this is that it has to do with the speed of life ceasing. You know, you take your last breath, your heart stops pumping, your body decomposes. And so it's, you know, does your soul leave as soon as you take that last breath? Does it leave when your heart stops pumping, or do you like become skeleton before it leaves?
And then it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like how bonded to your flesh
body are you?
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to look at it, because it seems like a lot of the Western philosophies is like, cool, you breathe out your soul and it goes into the next thing or whatever.
Now, while I feel like this is a separate topic, I also think it's a topic that's very much intertwined. Near-death experiences.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have experienced near-death experiences claim that it's when the heart stops.
Yeah.
That they leave their body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never heard the other theories on it.
I hadn't either, which is kind of why I wanted to bring it up, because it was just really unique to me. There's a strong belief that the soul will favor the ancestral line, and that the spirit may be reincarnated as a descendant within the same family. So
that's cool.
You may be your own great-grandmother, which is kind of cool to me.
I am my own grandpa.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. All right. So here I'm going to really mess up some words and apologize. Wait. So the Bambara, Igbo, Serer, Shona, Osa, and Yoruba communities take pride in acknowledging deceased loved ones as they're reborn. The reincarnation of lepers or people with alienating diseases or like deformities is not referenced due to the attached shame of having a family member with those afflictions, which I find really sad.
Sad.
Potentially, this concept leads these people to try and live a healthier life, as there is also a belief that these afflictions and illnesses can travel to the new body with the soul.
Interesting. I wonder if that's a way of kind of explaining, so if we're talking about historical lines, a way of kind of explaining genetic conditions.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, and a lot of skepticism lies within that thought of like, of course you are seeing this thing later down the line because it's a hereditary disease or a hereditary thing. One that was brought up was like a sixth finger, or like, you know, those very specific Punnett square oriented sort of things where it's like, yeah, no, that's a family thing. So in many African cultures, death is seen as a happy transition into the spiritual realm to live on as a sacred ancestor. This ties into the idea of partial reincarnation, where a portion of the soul ascends and a portion is reincarnated, which is most popular in the Yoruba culture.
That's interesting. So you can technically do both.
Yeah.
In that culture.
Yeah, which I think is really unique, because I think most of the time we think it's like an all or nothing. Especially like when we talk about in our context, like ghosts, like that seems to be like a stuck spirit, or, you know, something along those lines, that the idea of this fragmenting of like one half can do this and the other half can do that. I hadn't really heard that concept before.
I can't help myself. I'm sorry. It's Voldemort.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I guess he did die. Yeah. That's fair. Okay. Also, since we're on Harry Potter, trans people are real. I'm so mad. right now at everything, but yeah, okay.
I'm getting clawed. Okay. Dude,
Oh.
why don't you take that downstairs or something? Come on. Oh.
All right. In many parts of Nigeria, there is a born to die myth, which supposes that some babies who only live a short time, or even some older people who die like a really abrupt death, may have been water spirits. And that was kind of where that sentence ended. So I'm not sure how they make the jump from water spirits to human souls, because this article was from like 1974. Like I said, there's not a lot on this topic, but that's why I was like, let's try and bring what light we can to it. And it said that these born to die people die early to reincarnate, many times bearing a feature abnormality or a mark which is later seen on another relative.
Once again, I think that's a way to kind of define genetics. Do you have any marks that have passed through your family line?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All of the women in my family, I'm going to show you here. I don't know if you can see my freckle right here, my little mole on my chin.
Okay, I kind of do, yeah.
We've got bad camera right now, and it's also in a weird place right on my jawline.
Gotcha.
But my mom had it, my grandma had it.
Wow.
It's not always in the same spot. Sometimes it'll be a little higher or a little lower, but we've all seemed to have a mole right kind of in that same little region, which is weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So my weird thing is I have a little light freckle, which you probably can't see either, right on the heel of my hand.
We're using Zoom.
Cameras
from
suck.
Germany to Kansas.
And I also have a little mole right here on the back of my shoulder. Well, we have discovered that Darnell also has a little freckle on the heel of his left hand and a little mole on his right shoulder. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
So, I don't know. That's more like a soulmate theory, I guess, than a reincarnation story. But since you're talking about weird matching freckles.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, okay.
We could do an episode on soulmates sometime.
That'd be cool, yeah. Some of them are kind of cool. A lot of them are cheesy.
Yeah.
All right. So, back on that, a child who suddenly develops an inherited disease causes the family to search their ancestry for the relative who bore that disease to identify who has reincarnated. So again, maybe it's genetics, but
maybe it's just also, let's say the disease is tuberculosis or I don't know, flu or something like that. It's also just really popular that the disease could have evolved over the years, and now you're susceptible again. Don't necessarily think it's someone coming back.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so that's kind of all I had on the older philosophies. So moving more modern, in the early 20th century, interest in reincarnation had been introduced into psychology because of William James, who was influential in founding the American Society for Psychical Research in New York City in 1885, which led to the systematic critical investigation of paranormal phenomena. So, thought this was kind of a weird tidbit. General George Patton was a strong believer in reincarnation.
Interesting.
And he believed that he was the reincarnation of General Hannibal of Carthage. Which,
I feel like that's a stretch. I feel like everyone's going to be like, I was someone famous in a past life. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, and like, I'm a famous war general. Let me take my...
Also, going back to Julius Caesar, I mean, for generals, it's kind of easier to send troops of people potentially to their death thinking that they will reincarnate.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah, so I do wonder if that's like a way of easing your guilt.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know. So Carl Sagan, who is a known skeptic of reincarnation, once asked the Dalai Lama what he would do if reincarnation was to be disproved by science. The Dalai Lama answered, if science can disprove reincarnation, Tibetan Buddhism would abandon reincarnation, but it's going to be mighty hard to disprove it. Sagan considers claims of memories of past lives to be worthy of research, although he considers it to be an unlikely explanation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, good for them for keeping an open mind.
Yeah, for real. And like, I don't know, I think it's really interesting when religion is willing to value science. Yeah.
Yes, I agree too. absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to include that, because I was like, okay, that's cool.
We don't often see a lot of that here.
We don't. So last week you talked a little bit about the birthmark theory, and I guess we've kind of talked about it some tonight too. So Dr. Ian Stevenson, a former psychiatry professor from the University of Virginia School of Medicine, as well as a chairperson, devoted much of his life and research to the study of past lives until his death in 2007. He claimed to have identified over 3,000 cases in which he shared with the scientific community. According to one of his studies, 35% of children who claim to have had a past life have a birthmark or birth defect. 210 of these children have been studied. Quote, the birth defects were nearly always of rare type. In cases which deceased person was identified by the details of whose life unmistakably matched the child's statements, a close correspondence was nearly always found between the birthmarks and/or the birth defects on the child and the wounds on the deceased person. In 43 of 49 cases in which a medical document, usually a post-mortem report, was obtained, it was confirmed the correspondence between the wounds and the birthmarks or defects.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there is some validity to that, theoretically.
Yeah. Yeah, when I asked you to look into it, I had just heard, in the past life, perhaps you have a birthmark where you were killed in the past life.
Yeah.
Was what kind of what I wanted you to look into, and it's interesting that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's at least some correlation.
Yeah.
And as we know, correlation is not causation, but some
Interesting
parallels.
nonetheless.
Yeah. So really quick, a little bit of the science. So also from the University of Virginia, Jim B. Tucker was kind of the successor of Ian Stevenson. He took up the mantle after Dr. Stevenson died, and he's also done a lot of research on past lives. He's discovered that the median age of someone who died and is then remembered through a past life is 28. Children most frequently remember these memories between the ages of 2 and 6. 60% of the children who claim they've had a past life are male, and 90% say that they are the same sex now as in their past life.
Men keep coming back wanting to be men.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, if I had my choice, I'd probably come back male just not to have to deal with periods and all the crap that comes along with being a woman, so.
Literally.
Yeah. Plus, higher pay and.
Yep.
All
not
that
having the
stuff.
small of your back touched when people move past you in a crowded space.
Not being catcalled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally all of it.
Sounds kind of nice. All right. Oh, well, you might get a stray erection once in a while. Ooh.
Oh, no.
How terrible.
I'll just blame it on boys will be boys,
Easy peasy.
Oh. Okay, so about 70% of these children claim that they died of violent or unnatural death. There is an estimated time of 16 months between death of the past life and then the birth of the child remembering it. 20% of children claim memories from between that time, where they either think that they have gone home to God, some of them phrase it that way, or were waiting to be put into their mom, which is kind of a cute way to, this is the vocabulary of like a 2 to 6 year old, so.
Right. I've got a fun story about a cousin of mine that said something when he was younger.
Oh, that's cool. You want to tell it?
Sure. I was going to wait until you were done with history, and then I thought we could talk about personal experiences and then also get into some of these stories.
Yeah, I'm almost done. Okay, so Tucker also believes that quantum physics kind of explain the case of past lives. So some like interdimensional time bendy, which makes sense if you're
wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so skepticism and ethics. There's some question as to whether or not past life regressions go against the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, because the act of putting people under hypnosis leaves them very impressionable to have memories be implanted, which can be detrimental and leave them kind of with a false sense of self.
Okay.
So there, like, I saw some like scholarly journals posted of like, hey, I think this is bad and goes against everything medical professionals are supposed to do.
So I was once hypnotized by a stage show hypnotist.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know that there's anything there. Maybe I just got a crappy hypnotist because, he was Jim Bob the Hypnotizer or whoever who who came on and did it for entertainment value, but
Right. And I think
be interesting to hear other people's experiences with having been hypnotized.
And I think the
I
difference,
felt like maybe it lowered your guard a little bit, but beyond
Mhm.
that, I don't necessarily.
Yeah. I think the difference is that in this kind of question that's being asked, it's being asked of like medical professionals, like doctors. So like Ian Stevenson or Jim Tucker, like from those guys to go at it from like a medical background as opposed to like a psychic or hypnotist, that it's like, how does the perception of I'm going to a hypnotist change versus I'm going to a doctor? I think that's kind of where they're coming from.
Uh-huh.
So, because I can understand that, if you're going to a doctor, I think we have this idea that kind of like they know best, they know everything. Whereas most of us are like, all right, let's check out a psychic, see what's what. It could be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And so then if you
That
find
makes
out
sense.
that like, you died tragically in World War II, like it kind of leaves you a little fucked up. And then maybe it wasn't even real. Like maybe you watched a documentary last night, and so that's the thing that comes to your brain first. And you're like, is this a remembering, or is this just my brain processing the documentary I watched?
Or I saw something months and months and months ago,
Exactly.
and that's what came out during the relaxed state.
Yeah. Yep. And then so just a little bit more on some skepticism. So Stevenson, while being a leading researcher of past lives, was characterized in another journal as being demonstrated by his pointing out that if the memories of all the hypnotically regressed subjects claiming to have been present at the crucifixion of Christ were true, there would have been no room for the Roman soldiers to be in attendance on Golgotha. So even he was like, okay, I think that there's a lot of people who believe it because, I mean, I think it's like false memories. Your mom has told you the story of your second birthday so much that you start to have this memory of, oh yeah, I wore that dress, but you don't really remember it.
Patton thinks he's Hannibal because Hannibal's crusades and all that have been highly documented.
Right. And so for people who
and he's
are
probably studied them as a general
exactly,
as well. Yeah, okay.
And so for people who are of the Christian faith, the moment of the crucifixion is so prolific to that faith, to that doctrine, that it's like, I'm sure that that's the thing that's easiest to identify with on a personal level, is that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can kind of see where it's like, that would be the easiest one to come across. I also found there was a lot of articles and Google hits that I had to just omit because there was a lot of just like weird, wacky, smells like patchouli stuff going on.
Yeah.
There was this one guy who, it was a Vice article, and I don't remember his name, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get sued. But he apparently was a doctor, like a medical doctor, but also had a career in the oil fields, and he believes he was President John Adams.
Okay.
Which was like, and he's
Once
apparently...
again, everybody's going to pick famous people.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay. But the thing is, I mean, they had like a side-by-side picture of like a painting of John Adams and this dude. They kind of had some similar features, but they also just kind of both look like white dudes. So I don't know. Maybe something to it, maybe not. But he got like really into some stuff, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna use this one. It definitely seemed like he was pushing an agenda, and he was like, I've lost so many family members and like work opportunities because of this, and I was like, sorry about you. Like, but that seems like you took it a little too far.
I could definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I would pick someone cool to be. There was also some stuff I saw that like Halle Berry, apparently someone who can just decide what you were in a past life. Halle Berry was apparently Dorothy Dandridge, who was a black woman passed over for an Oscar, and so Halle Berry being reincarnated to get the Oscar was like divine intervention. So I don't know about all that stuff. I think maybe it was just time a black woman won an Oscar.
Also, the Academy, there's a lot of politics that go into that.
Exactly. That I'm like, I don't think that a black woman getting snubbed for an Oscar and then a black woman winning an Oscar have that strong of a tie.
And I will say the Oscars are different today systematically than they were then. Yeah. But also...
Yeah, but that was like, not a strong case to me. I was like, okay, I don't think that's grasping.
Yeah.
So let's hear some of your stories. I'm super excited for this part.
Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to kind of talk to you about if you've had any experiences with past lives.
So my mom was super into this kind of stuff.
Okay.
She's really into like astral projection and past lives and
Hmm.
just all that sort of stuff. And so she would get these like CDs from the library that were like how to do a past life regression session on your own.
Interesting. And
Yeah,
believe it or not, you can actually find one of these available on YouTube. So if you
cool.
are interested in maybe experiencing a past life regression, I saw a couple of them on YouTube. I'd feel free to check that out. So she would go out and get these CDs from the library.
Yeah, and then I would listen to them out of curiosity
Mhm.
and try and do it myself. Now, mind you, I was 8 probably. My mom died when I was 10, so I think, yeah, 8, maybe 9. And so, I mean, I'm a little kid. I think I just wanted to find out that I was like Tomb Raider in a past life. So I didn't really have any validating experiences. I was just like, I'm doing cool stuff. And I was like, uh, as I look back on it as an adult, I think I probably fell asleep and had a
And had a
really cool
cool
prompted
dream as a
dream.
kid.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah. I don't think that I don't think that those were successful for me. Now maybe going back and doing it as an adult, I would have a different experience.
I'm
But
giving you
you know.
homework.
Okay, I'll do one.
Do one. Let's just see.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experiences with past life type of stuff. And so my uncle and I were talking, and I asked him, I don't know how it came up, but he always tells the story about when his son was little. He had heard something on the radio or seen something on TV about past life regression.
Mhm.
And his son said to him, I used to fly when they were watching a documentary on like planes and warplanes
Mhm.
and stuff. And my uncle turns to him and goes, You've never flown. When did you fly? And he said, When I was older,
Okay.
which was interesting. And that's all he could
Yup.
get out of him.
Huh.
For me, I did a past life regression in person at
Yeah.
a new age shop just because it was like $15-20. And
Yeah.
a boyfriend and I at the time were like, that's weird. Let's try it. Why not? So I went in and they did the whole meditation process, but I also felt like it was a little bit where it was someone who kind of told you what you were type thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that there was a big mixture of that,
Yeah.
but they decided that I was married to what I perceived at the time to be an ancient Roman general, but what now I think is like a Mesopotamian,
Mhm.
um, somebody in charge of armies or something like that. Maybe not as high up as a general, but they had pissed off the leader, the king or the emperor or
Mhm.
whatever, and they were coming to kill us. So I poisoned our children and myself.
Gotcha.
It was kind of like a porridge in a wooden bowl that I
Okay.
mixed up with a spoon, and I
Huh.
think it was hemlock. But that was
Oh.
what I was told and kind of
Okay.
meditated on. But I will say I was watching a lot of Rome, the series on HBO at the
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah.
So who knows if that could have been at play.
Mhm.
Um, the next past life experience I've had is a past life dream. And
Okay.
this one I'm 100% convinced is memories from somewhere
Mhm.
because it's so different than any other dream I've had. So it started out with me being a little girl, but it wasn't me as a little girl. It
Mhm.
was a little girl who looked very differently, was dressed very plainly, and it felt like the Great Depression type era.
Okay.
Um, and I was looking up to a woman who I knew was my mother, who was not my actual mom. She didn't
Yeah.
look like a mom or anything like that. And she was telling me, she was bent over me, looking down at me, and she was telling me, don't ever let a man hit you in your nose
Mm.
or your face because your nose is already crooked and it'll screw up the little bit of pretty that you already have.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, for lack of better words. And then the dream went on to where I was older as this
Mhm.
girl, and I met this man who worked for a railroad and was very high up in a railroad company, and I began having an affair with him. And I had 3 illegitimate sons by this man. And the man really liked my oldest son because my oldest son was athletic, but
Mhm.
I used to have to beg him for money because my son just kept outgrowing shoes.
Mhm.
super expensive. And then he got me a job working at kind of like, I would call it maybe a department store now, but
Okay.
it was
like a Woolworths kind of deal.
Yeah, it was a large, not like a Walmart or anything like that, but it was a kind of a woman's clothing type
Okay.
store. They had big green planters throughout the store. It was very interesting, and I remember looking in a mirror in the dream, and I saw my face as this older girl now. I was probably mid-20s ish, and I was wearing a pillbox hat, and I remember that specifically, adjusting the pillbox hat. And at the time, I had no idea what a pillbox hat was.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. When I woke up, I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is what I saw."
Yeah.
And then I kept begging him to marry me, but he wouldn't. So then I went on to marry kind of an accountant, and we had a little farm house together. And my oldest son died in the war, and my younger two. Yeah, it was a really interesting
Wow,
dream.
that's like really
And it was
out.
incredibly detailed.
Yeah.
I remember specifically the department store. Like I've tried to go back and find pictures. When I say department store, I say that as someone who's from this time and era, is how I would kind of describe it. I can't find any pictures, but I found the exact pillbox type hat and all that. So I think it was kind of 1930s, maybe beginning in 1940s-ish.
That's interesting. It also is interesting to me. I don't know. There were some similarities to like the Grace Brown murder that makes me wonder if maybe that's why you're so drawn to her, like with the whole like trying to beg this hotshot guy to marry you over and over and over.
Oh, and by the way, he was not attractive. He was very unhealthily overweight, and but he worked like, picture an old timey railroady tycoon that was gruff and overweight and just like gluttonous, and he was mean. But I remember feeling important when I was with him because he had his own little car on the railroad. I would come visit him on when he came in town. Like, it was very interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me that you're so taken by that story as well. Like, but she also came from humble beginnings and was like infatuated with this man who wanted nothing to do with her. That it's, I don't know. That's kind of interesting that you have identified with a similar identity.
I know. That was kind of interesting. So I feel like this would be a really good point in my own personal story to kind of tell you how you can identify if you've maybe experienced a past life.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, I will say one more thing, one more kind of maybe weird past life thing I experienced once was I was watching a documentary on ancient Egypt, and we know I am a huge lover of ancient Egypt. Like, I don't know, to me that kind of feels like home in a weird way.
Okay.
So I was watching this documentary about ancient Egypt, and they mentioned kind of a lesser-known pharaoh, and they showed his corpse, and the first thing that gutturally came to my mind was, screw that dude.
Okay.
And it was someone I had never heard of before or anything. It was just like a guttural, like, oh, that guy's a pretentious fuck, I hate him. Or something, okay, it's sorry to be cursing, but it was like that deep of
we don't do that here.
Emotion from me.
Yeah.
It was really weird, and then I'm like, what was that about? Like, I've never seen this pharaoh. I haven't really ever heard of him. I can't remember now. I'll have to go back, and I know exactly what documentary it was. I'll go pull it up, and I'll see his name, but yeah, immediately I was like, nope, don't like that guy.
Weird.
It was weird. Okay, so here's some ways to maybe tell if you have experienced a past life.
Okay.
And the first is unconscious memories. So the most common memories of past lives are those that you've unconsciously aware of having, because those memories are revealed in very subtle ways. For example, specific dislikes that have no bias in your current life may just be from a past life or emotional response to that event. So my example of that is possibly when I saw that pharaoh and was like, I don't like that guy. He's pretentious. He was a jerk. No.
Yeah.
I don't think I had ever heard of him before.
Can I cut in really quick on that
Sure.
topic? Another thing
Have you ever had any guttural?
Not really. But another thing I saw in my research that I forgot to include is that a theory with past lives is weird pregnancy cravings.
Interesting.
So, like, if the mother is craving, like, a cuisine that she doesn't typically eat, it may have something to do with the spirit of the baby that's the past life. So like
that's very cool.
like if you don't like spicy food, but all of a sudden you keep just craving like, Mexican food or something, it could mean that your child has like a past life from a culture that has spicy food in it, or if you crave Asian food. I don't know, that was just something that was like, okay, that's weird that it would impact the mother that way.
So if we have any pregnant ladies out there or expectant mothers, that'd be kind of cool just to make a little note of what you crave throughout pregnancy, and as they get older, see if they have any memories that kind of tie into that. Or if they say anything weird, like my little cousin did when he was 4.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so with unconscious memories, this reaction, whether it's emotional or a physical one, can often leave you perplexed, as there isn't really a logical reason for such a strong dislike. Taste and smell are 2 of the most common leftovers of past lives, and as are allergies. This residual memory often seems random and without any rhyme or reason, but once you begin to delve into your past lives, you may discover a reason for it.
Interesting.
So maybe that pharaoh just really pissed me off.
I guess.
Maybe I was a servant and he was a jerk, or maybe, I don't know, but
that's really cool.
Yeah. So here's some kind of small examples of past life residual memories. There's a certain woman we're going to be talking about who had a very strong physical reaction to taste and smell of lemon. It was so intense that she would become physically ill and nauseated from the smell or the taste of the fruit. During a past life regression, she discovered in a recent lifetime she had almost an addiction to lemon drops, until one afternoon she was shot and killed while buying a bag of lemon drops.
Oh, wow.
So
at first I thought you meant the martini.
Oh, maybe, supposedly.
Whoa.
Do you have any weird inversions? We'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Unexplained reactions to strangers is another theorized idea of how you might know you've experienced a past life. Have you ever met someone for the first time and had just like an inexplicable negative or positive feeling, or being drawn to that person? Well, perhaps you feared the person in a past life or had an intense dislike for the individual. It's possible they could have been lovers with you in a past life, or you could have had a positive relationship. A lot of people theorize that this is one of the reasons behind love at first sight.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. So there have been many cases of past life recall where 2 people have previously been mortal enemies, but in a current life are madly in love with each other. In such instances, the souls choose to change their relationship this time around in an effort to work through the karma or forgiveness. Now, as much as I want to believe my soul is that forgiving, to be like, you were a mortal enemy of mine and now we're lovers, I personally can't see it for myself, but maybe I'm not to that evolved level of plane.
I'm too petty.
Spiritual plane. Right? That's kind of where I'm at.
That also sounds like such a, new school Twilight kind of young adult spiritual, like, in their past lives, they hated each other. Now there's weird sexual tension because they're high schoolers.
You should write that.
No, I can't.
Come on. You can put your own spin on it. Emotional.
Hold on, it'd be called Love at Second Sight. No, it would. That's so bad.
No, that's really bad. You're gonna have to fix that.
No, it's gonna be a horrible cheesy.
Second time around.
Stop. No, I'm not writing this shit.
What about? Oh, here we go again.
Third time.
Oops, I did it again.
Oh my god. Okay, moving on.
Emotional cues can be a great sign that maybe you've experienced a past life. A few people spontaneously recall any of their past lives. In fact, people often exhibit complete memory loss for most people between lifetimes. But if emotions are surprisingly can remain intact throughout lifetimes, supposedly, they seem to be a barometer for the soul and may serve significant purpose in the reincarnation process. Now here's an example. Perhaps you've had a turbulent relationship with someone, and you meet him again in this lifetime. You may feel guarded around this person, or you may avoid them completely. This may be your soulless way of preventing you from making the same mistakes in this lifetime. Avoidance can be one way to face karma debt from past life. Now here's what I think about that. I also think we are just so endowed with our own intuition that if you naturally just kind of dislike someone or you want to avoid them, I can also think that's your intuition just being like, hey, something's off. keep your guard up.
Yeah, that's probably what I lead more towards.
Yeah. Here we have some dreams. Okay. So lots of past life memories are often revealed to you through your dreams. This kind of dream is different from a typical dream you may have where there's a beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
It's commonly believed that the past life dreams began in the middle. In a past life dream, you suddenly find yourself in the middle of a scene as though you've stepped into a movie after it had been playing for an hour. Events have already occurred, but you're confused and unsure what's going on. These dreams have no beginning and no ending. They feel very real, and you cannot believe it was just a dream when you wake.
Hmm.
Lucid dreamings can also be a very profound way to remember past lives. So anyone who's interested in lucid dreaming, you can kind of teach yourself to lucid dream in the sense that you have control over your dreams when you're asleep. And a lot of people have theorized that this is a great way to get in control of discovering your past life.
Right.
So you may suddenly dream you're in the middle of a natural disaster or a place unfamiliar to you, yet in the dream you know where you are, you know where to go, and you know people familiar to you. You view your dream as though you've watched a movie unfold, but are an active participant in which you play yourself in a role without hesitation. So this is kind of a past life dream that feels like a past life dream, but you take control of your position and maybe explore a little more to uncover things.
Okay.
Spontaneous recall. Now, another form of memory is spontaneous recall. Many things can trigger this type of memory of recall. The moment occurs, you feel like you've been thrown back into this lifetime and are reliving the events as they occurred. I kind of want to say that feels like the dream I had was spontaneous recall. Then I'm going to speak very broadly for a second on individual cellular memories and ancestor memories. So we've discussed about how reincarnation, a lot of people think that your soul reincarnates within the ancestral line. Now, a lot of people also think that you can experience memories of your ancestors, that maybe they're trying to guide you or teach you something, or maybe you're recalling their memories. So the first theory about cellular memory states that what's believed to be a past life recall is actually ancestor memories. This individual taps into the stored heredity cellular memories. These memories are passed on from one generation to the other. A prime example is often used of how dogs from a long line of herding dogs initially know how to herd sheep or cattle. It's theorized that it may be possible to tap into the emotional memories of ancestors that have been embedded with genetic material. Now, another example I want to give of this is a lot of people have the fear of the dark, or fear of spiders, or fear of snakes. Well, a lot of that is theorized to have come from evolution and from us knowing from a very long period on, night is when predators come out. In the sense that that's when animals might eat us. Snakes are venomous, and back then we couldn't always tell what kind were what. Spiders can carry disease, etc. So here are 6 quick signs that you may have experienced a past life. You have strong feelings of deja vu when you visit a new place. You're overwhelmed with the feeling that you've been there before. If you experience having unexplainable knowledge about a topic, place, or time, it could indicate leftover memories or knowledge from a past life. Hence, screw that guy. That pharaoh was a douche.
I have a lot of deja vu.
Yeah, that could be. I know deja vu is also theorized as being kind of your soul's way of knowing where you're meant to be.
Yeah, I also think that, and because I've studied a little bit just because it happens so often, I think it's also just because my brain's so taxed that I'm like so tired and worn out, because I've seen that that's also another theory, but it'd be really cool if it meant that I had a past life. I like that better than just my brain wanting to give up for the day.
A sudden feeling of nostalgia when you see a color, design, hear a song, or see a photo from a past era could indicate that a past life emotion has been triggered. If you have unexplainable passion for a specific food, place, hobby, or career choice, it could be associated with a past life. I don't know. That one's kind of to me. Irrational reactions to a place or object could often be explained. Or if you have an instant dislike for someone you just met, it's possible you have unresolved past life conflict, or you dislike this person in another past life, or, I'm just going to say it, maybe it's your intuition being like, something's off there.
Let's not.
Let's not. So, how can you yourself experience a past life regression if you would like to learn more? Or maybe you've had a dream and you really want to go into more depth of if you think this is a past life.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of great meditations that you can use to kind of walk yourself through it on your own. And like I said, you can easily find those on YouTube. You can go to classes like I did where you can have a past life encounter. But honestly, I would say be wary of that. Know whenever there's a human involved that is
Yeah.
not you and is making money from something, that it is possible that they could be leading you down certain ways, which might not necessarily be true.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is a great way to reveal a past life. And then once again, lucid dreaming. I highly recommend to all of our listeners out there, if you haven't messed around a little bit with lucid dreaming, try. It's been scientifically proven.
Mm-hmm.
Lucid dreaming is a way to take over your dreams and realizing you're in a dream when you are in the dream state and being able to control your dreams.
Yeah.
And I've always found it to be so fascinating. I've only been able to do it like once or twice, maybe, and it was amazing. So, highly recommend. Have you ever had any experiences with lucid dreaming?
So Darnell will confirm, a very light sleeper.
Uh-huh.
I am almost always in a state between awake and asleep. Like, you can move and I am up like that. And so I think that kind of gives me an edge because it's seldom that I go so far deep, which is probably why I'm always tired all the damn time. But so it's seldom that I'm that far down into sleep. So I have an easier time manipulating my dreams because there is still a semi-consciousness. So
Okay.
it's super easy for me to lucid dream.
Oh, I'm so freaking jealous.
I don't necessarily recognize that I'm dreaming, but
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that I have autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of my dreams feel very first person as opposed to like the I'm watching a movie. It's almost always very like, okay, cool, I want to go here now. Or like, I don't want to be in that room.
So you have control.
Somewhat, yeah. I can't just be like, I want to dream that I'm on the beach in Hawaii. But I can be like, okay, I'm here. This is the choice that I make.
See, I want that so bad.
Well, it comes with a lot of dark circles under your eyes, so.
Oh man. I feel like I'm best at lucid dreaming when, like you said, I'm in a state between awake and asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I work overnights and sometimes I don't sleep very well. And then I come home and I go to have a little nap, but I don't enter a deep level of sleep during that time. And that's when I experience my easiest ability to control dreams.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some creepy stuff kids have said. So, a while ago, BuzzFeed put out a post asking for interesting things that children have said about past lives. And here's some of the more memorable ones that I think have popped up from that. And they're short little blurbs, but I think some of them are really interesting. The first one is, my 2-year-old niece pointed at the collapsing Twin Towers on the screen and said very clearly, I died.
Whoa.
My 4-year-old nephew talks about being on the Titanic all the time. He said he was with his wife and that it was really cold, and every time he watches a movie with boats or bodies in the water, he gets freaked out and tries to turn it off.
Oh.
Here's one that says, my 3-year-old son told me that he smothered someone once. I asked him if he knew what that word meant. He said it meant holding a pillow on someone's head until they stopped moving. I asked him when he did that, and he said, oh, a long, long time ago.
I'm sorry, but I'd take that kid to the fire station.
That's a little scary. Would you want your child to say they smothered someone a while ago?
Absolutely not. And then be able to give context, like, dude, no. You're not my kid anymore, man. Sorry.
All right, well, we're going to take all the pillows out of your room, and Mommy's putting a lock on her door. Number 6 would be, my daughter had a nightmare that she was playing paper dolls in her mom's bathroom when a man came in and murdered her and her brother. She's never even seen paper dolls before.
Oh, that's weird.
My 3-year-old cousin told us he was once a man named Ghazi who lived in Syria, and that bad guys cut his fingers off one by one and ran over him with a jeep.
Okay.
Oh, I know this is unrelated, but My stepfather cut 2 of his fingers off yesterday.
Oh no, is he okay?
He's okay. Um, he's all right. Apparently, it was just the tips of the fingers. It was with a rotary saw.
Oh,
My mom is a little traumatized because she had to pick up the fingertip
oh, yep.
of one of them, and they went to the hospital to try to get it reattached, but it doesn't look like that's possible. So
Oh.
today he's visiting a hand specialist, and I'm a little thrown off my game by all this today. But what really concerns me, of course, my stepfather cutting his fingers off concerns me very
Yeah.
much. But my mom decided to drop this via a text message as I was going to bed last night instead of just calling me. So I had to have a talk with her and be like, Mom, look, if anybody goes to the ER
That's not
or
a
police
text.
are called for any reason, please call me. That's not a text.
Yeah.
So I'm getting ready to go to bed. I'm laying down and my phone goes off and I look over it and said, oh, Bob cut off 2 fingers today. We rushed to the hospital. It was a bit of an emergency room visit. And I was like, what?
Oh my god.
What is that about? Since
Yeah.
we're on the subject of fingers getting cut off.
Well, you have to keep me posted on what the specialist is able to do.
Yeah. So let's talk some more past lives. One day, my 2-year-old brother randomly started describing a detailed process of making pizza. He'd
Okay.
never seen anyone make pizza before, so my parents asked him when he did this, and he said, with my old family, my mama and papa, which is not what he called their parents,
Oh.
before I died, and I came to live with you. Here's a story about a girl who was babysitting a 5-year-old boy who out of the blue said, the ambulances came after I got hit and everyone was sad. And 5 seconds later, he had no claims of remembering that he had ever said that. Our son is named after a Marine that was killed in action on my husband's last deployment. One day when he was 3, we drove by the military base where his namesake is buried, and our son said, I'm buried over there in the ground. You know, from when I died fighting bad guys with Daddy before I was your kid.
Oh,
We had never even visited that side of town before, and he had no clue that was the graveyard or that it was even there. My 3-year-old niece told me she used to drive. I said, when you're older, I guess, but she shook her head in frustration and said, no, when I was a grown-up. Now I'm too small. I humored her and asked her what her car was like. She told me in a surreal tone, a 66 Chevy Camaro.
Hey, she's got good taste.
She went on to contribute, that's a nice car. Favorite. Till it crashed. Can I watch Teletubbies?
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty detailed.
Yeah.
My husband and I joke that our son is my dad reincarnated because he's just like him. He was conceived 3 months after my dad passed away from a sudden heart attack and was born with a birthmark right over his heart. If that's not enough, the first 3 letters of my son wrote were G-U-Y in that order. That was my dad's name. I mean, I kind of find it more convincing when the kids say.
Yeah.
You know, oh, when I was older or when I used to be big.
Yeah.
When I was watching The Great Gatsby at a friend's house, and her 3-year-old brother started talking about going to parties like those and about the financial crisis. Yes, he used those exact words that followed.
Wow. Yeah, it's weird to me too, like when they talk about like parts of an engine in like a World War II fighter plane. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, so even the kid who's like was named after the Marine, like I'm sure that anecdotally he maybe overheard grown-ups talking or something. But to be like, oh yeah, the catalytic converter needs to, like, excuse me?
It was a Chevy 66 Camaro.
Right, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right, yeah, like that's when it gets like, because, you know, kids at that age like parrot stuff, but when they have like intimate knowledge of something that they have no reason to know about, that's when it like blows my mind.
Oh, I know. So here's another one that says, my daughter was born with a heart condition and is very sickly. One day she said that she missed the old, not sick her. I asked her what she meant since she had been born sick. She said, you know me, but the other me with red hair. That's interesting.
Okay.
My son told us the reason he's best friends with his 89-year-old great-grandpa is because he was his sister before.
Aww.
That kind of goes along with what we talked about with the family line and how sometimes reincarnation happens within the same family line. When my son was 3, he would talk about his boardies, a wooden paneled station wagon and someone named Bubba. He said he used to surf when he was older before he became a kid. We live in the Midwest, and he's never seen the ocean, much less a surfboard. His boardies.
I know, he's just got this, like, grandpa slang.
Like, he's a surfer dude taken too soon. I used to hang out with my boardies, catching waves, listening to the Beach Boys.
Oh, what a life. And now I'm here.
And
Like,
now
that
I'm here
sucks.
in the Midwest. Please
Yeah.
buy me a skateboard. My 5-year-old son told me when he was old, he drowned in a flood, he said. But this time, I'm learning how to swim and things will be different. See? And he took a swim.
Oh, wow.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
When my daughter was about 3, my sister and I were telling her about the day she was born. She corrected us by saying, "You mean the day I came back."
Okay. That, like, gave me chills, bro.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Here's another interesting one. I was singing a song to my 3-year-old daughter that my great-grandma used to sing to me when I was small. My daughter smiled, stroked my cheek, and said, "I remember when I used to sing this to you when I was the mommy and you were my little girl."
That's cute. I've heard stories like that before, and that's sweet.
Yeah, it's interesting. So do you know anyone who, I know we kind of talked about if you had a past life. Have you ever heard of any kids that you know claim this sort of thing?
No, not personally, I don't think. I feel like it would stick out to me if I had. What about you? I know you nanny a lot. Have any of the kids you nanny for ever said some weird stuff?
No, not to me directly.
Mm.
I mean, I've heard parents kind of say, "Oh, he said this weird thing or that weird thing." I can't think of any
Yeah.
offhand other than my uncle's story about my cousin saying he used to fly when he was bigger or when he was
Yeah.
older. Okay, so recently, while doing my research, I watched an old clip of the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Mhm.
Actually, this might not have been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. This might have been in the rabbit hole afterwards I went on of
Okay.
watching all these children talk about their past life experiences. And one of them was a little girl who said that basically how heaven works is you get to go to heaven and then you get to hang out and wait for a while and kind of rest. And then you have to decide and start learning what you want to learn in your next life. And then you work and you try to pick a family that will help you achieve those goals. And then you come down and you're born again.
Interesting.
It is. I highly recommend everybody go on the YouTube, as my mom would call it. And check out some of these past life stories. I mean, it's one thing to hear about it secondhand from me,
Yeah.
but watching some of these clips of direct interviews from children who are convinced that they died in the Civil War or died in a house fire in the 1800s, it's so incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a past life quiz and see what your past life potentially was according to this internet quiz?
Yes, I love cheesy internet quizzes. They appeal to the Tiger Beat teen I used to be.
Okay, we're going to take a quiz. Which tickles your fancy the most? Power, honorable actions, a beautiful work of art, or a bit of hanky-panky?
Oh, probably the art, I guess.
Probably the art, I guess. Okay?
I wasn't prepared to go
Wow.
deep.
The most beautiful person you've ever seen has just walked into the room and now heading right towards you. You really hope he/she doesn't notice how short you are, how nervous you are, your body odor, or your ring.
How nervous I am.
Okay? I'm glad it wasn't body odor. Which of the following gets your mouth watering? A vegan buffet, cakes, cookies, and candies, turkey dinner, or roast chicken with fried potatoes and onions? That's very specific.
It's very specific. I just had dinner, so I'm like, cake sounds really good. I'll go for the dessert option.
Cakes, cookies, and candies. When you need to think, you often go for a long walk, retire to your bedroom, consult your favorite advisor, or space out.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. Getting drunk is awesome, a way of life, a wasteful form of self-indulgence, a way to warm up for the real partying.
Jesus. My quarantine versus not quarantine answer is probably different, so let's just do the baseline of awesome.
Awesome! Okay. A loud, obnoxious man has just equated your intellect with that of a box of hammers. You engage in fisticuffs, turn the other cheek, wait outside and jump him with your friends, or mercilessly spear him with your rapier-sharp wit.
Oh, the rapier sharp wit,
Oh,
definitely.
definitely. The second it came out of my mouth, I'm like, she doesn't choose that when I'm putting it for her.
Yeah, no, like, I've been getting in a lot of, like, Facebook arguments in the last month, and I don't know why I engage these people, but I literally had a guy, like, debase me on Facebook and, like, basically sexually harass me over speaking up for, like, people who are disenfranchised, and I was like, okay, you can talk about my tits all you want, dude. It was rough.
Sounds rough. Which is the surest path to happiness? Living a virtuous life, fulfilling your destiny, work hard, play hard, haven't got that one figured out, or telling some guy on Facebook to keep worrying about your tits.
The destiny one.
Fulfilling your destiny.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, which is probably also telling some guy on Facebook to screw up.
How can we improve society? By cultivating knowledge, by first nurturing our soul, by letting me fix everything. Not sure, but a wizard would probably be a big help.
Oh, man, the Virgo in me is like, let me fix it.
I'll go.
But I also like the intellectual answer of, like, learn. Yeah, just let me fix everything.
Okay.
I am who I am tonight.
All right, 2 more questions. Finish the sentence. To me, science is one of life's most worthy pursuits, truly inspiring, a well of sound advice, a real downer sometimes.
Sorry, what was the first option?
One of life's most... I can't read it. One of life's most... one of life's most worthy pursuits.
That one.
Okay.
But also, it's been a super downer because, like, climate change and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, appreciate that they didn't put a science isn't real option.
Yeah.
Which of the following would you rather have as a pet? A dog, a cat, a horse, or a psychedelic toad? You know, in case you want to lick it, I guess.
See my pre-quarantine, post-quarantine answer. No. A dog.
A dog! Okay. Do you want to know who you were in a past life? Because I do, and the results are coming in right now. We are calculating your results, Rue. And it is almost done. And I have to click to get your results. You had the heart of a true poet, deeply introspective and keenly sensitive to even the most subtle of life's nuances. Oh, a pop-up, hang on. You may one day produce a work, oh, another pop-up.
I was a pop-up in my past life.
You may one day produce a work of staggering artistic genius at some point. You're gonna get right on that, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Okay.
Did it just give you traits, or did it tell you who I was?
It said you were a poet. It's not going to tell you were famous or anything.
Oh, I thought it was going to be some corny, like, you were Ernest Hemingway. And I was like, I knew I picked the right drinking answer.
No, I think you'd have to pick the psychedelic toad one, too, to get the Hemingway result, perhaps. I'm going to try a past life regression again.
Okay.
You know, it's quarantine. Why not try some YouTube past life regressions and report back on them?
I like it.
Yeah, and I want to send you the same one that I'm going to do, and I want you to do it too.
I will.
I'm so pissed, Rue.
I'm sorry.
You don't understand. I had like 5 pages.
That sucks.
And like only my first page saved.
Dude, that's why I do everything in Google Docs.
My heart is broken. Well, usually, like, once I'm done with it, I just click out of it because you and I aren't going to need them again.
Yeah.
All right, fuck it. Let's call that the episode.
All right. Well, so where can people find us?
supposedlypod@gmail.com.
You can't sound that sad.
I am that sad. Okay.
I know.
How many listeners do we have?
Not a lot of people give a shit about us, but a lot of my really good friends listen, and they tell me that it's sweet because they miss me, and so they like to put me on to fall asleep so they can hear my voice. And people are falling in love with you, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, like, so many of my friends are just like, Jessi's amazing. When can I hang out with Jessi?
I did notice one of your friends added me on Instagram recently. And you were the only person I had connected to. And I was like, who is this person? Have I met them? And then I'm like, I haven't really met a lot of people through you.
Yeah.
And you're in Germany right now, which kind of, and I'm like, oh my God, is it a podcast listener? Do you. I'm going to give a shout out to this person I'm pretty sure is listening to our podcast. For adding me. Where are they? Like I said, I haven't been on social media, so I just see pop-ups of like when.
Yeah. Oh, Paige.
Yes!
Yes. It was on my other, I was actually on my old account.
Oh my god, don't bum me out like that. I was so excited when you had a person that was following me.
Yes, no.
Hi, Paige. I'm
Paige
Jessi.
is
Thanks for
great.
the follow.
Paige is an international listener from England.
No way.
Yeah.
We have a listener in England?
Yeah, she's like one of my best friends, dude.
That's cool. Just for you, Paige, I'm going to bring it for you next episode.
Ayo.
Ayo. I am going to really redo research.
All right, so you can find us on the socials at supposedlypod.
And supposedlypod@gmail.com.
Hit us up, and if you feel like it, leave a review that talks about how great we are, or don't say anything at all.
And just give us a thumbs up. Help people find us.
Yeah, if you like us, maybe someone you know would too.
Help us make the effort worth it.
Sounds good. All right, well, I'll see you next time on
Supposedly.
Supposedly.